I feel the need to open this video by saying, as a gay man, because we're going to need some context here. I have a very complicated past with being brought up in a very religious household. And that complication kept me in the closet until I was about 27 years old. So on that topic, I actually had someone in my comments tell me to tone down the gay stuff. So if you happen to still be watching my videos, this one's for you. So back on the topic of my upbringing, I still struggle with that stuff a few decades later, but I also know that beliefs and opinions within the church have been changing for quite a few years now. And aside from vaginal spelunking, there's really nothing straight men can do that I am somehow prohibited from taking part in. Now, this doesn't always extend to religious establishments, but since I'm not religious, I don't necessarily give a shit. I live in a country, the United States, that was founded on freedom of religion as well as being free from having to partake in a national religion. So if being gay goes against the tenets of some religious establishment, why would I want to be a part of it? I believe that churches and religious spaces have the right to believe and practice whatever it is they want. As long as they're not actively harming someone else, of course. I respect this even if their ideology is at odds with who I am at a fundamental level. Acceptance comes from a place of experience, empathy, knowledge, and community, and all of that eventually leads to wisdom, or I should hope so anyways. Acceptance doesn't come about by force. In fact, forcing anyone to be tolerant usually ends up having the opposite effect of what you intended. We don't live in a country that sets up involuntary re-education facilities. We live in a country that has places like churches and public universities for all of our far left and far right wing propaganda needs. So why am I saying all of this? Because some of you need to step out of your echo chambers and understand that not everyone is going to like the things you do. Even the people in your most inner circles are not necessarily a part of some giant Borg hive mind. It doesn't matter how enlightened you think you are, if you just remain in these circles for all of your life, it's just a sign of willful ignorance, also known as stupidity. So let's get into it. Hello everyone, I'm Aaron Dusk, indie author of The Mark of Amuli and The Varcross Key. So if you're interested in gay, human-on monster romance and fantasy, give them a look-see. You can read some of the sample chapters on my website and see if my writing style vibes with you. So in case I didn't make it clear in the info, I'm gonna be a bit salty today. Last week I was perusing Twitter, or X, which is a fucking stupid name and I will never call it that. And wouldn't you know, I happened across a hot take. I know, shocking to know that I would come across such an opinion on social media. So what or who am I going to discuss today? It's Brandon Sanderson, yes, the guy who gave us Mistborn, the Stormlight Archive, and even finished The Wheel of Time. That guy. While not as rich and successful as George R.R. Martin, Sanderson does have a net worth of around $6 million. Let's face it, most of us struggling authors would kill to make even a fraction of that in our lifetimes. So even though for the last decade and a half, Sanderson keeps his personal and political positions private for the most part. He ends up in the spotlight every now and then by either unhinged activists or jealous unknown indie authors. And we're going to be taking a look at both because it's not a very good look. So personally, what I love about Brandon Sanderson isn't necessarily his writing per se. While I have read Mistborn and the Stormlight Archives, I've read all of the Stormlight Archives, they were more middle-of-the-road reads for my tastes. Okay, they didn't really do much for me. That's not saying that they're bad books or they're mid books. They're actually pretty good books, but they just weren't for me. No, what I love about Sanderson is how he advocates for authors of all backgrounds. How he uses his popularity and his influence to stand up for all authors against unfair practices of monopolistic megacorporations like Amazon, for instance. I also love that he has a YouTube channel that he will give free lectures on the craft to anyone who wants to watch it. Whether you like his writing or not, he is a successful author and he has a lot of knowledge and information from years of being in the industry. So he shares his methods for writing well-paced and well-written page turners that people have obviously been enjoying for years. So what don't I like about Sanderson? Well, I mean, he's Mormon, I guess. But is religion really a reason to not like someone or their work? Let me ask you this, especially those who have further left-leaning ideologies. If Sanderson was Islamic, would you still have the same prejudice? Let's ignore the fact that most, if not all, Islamic teachings are even more extreme against homosexuality and women. But let's just say Brandon Sanderson was not only Islamic, he was also Middle Eastern. Would you then speak out against him going to mosque where they will discriminate against people like you? Or would you give it a pass because he meets the right skin color requirement? And you know what's sad is that this isn't really a hypothetical question because this happens all the damn time now. I'm not going to post clips of unhinged racist TikTok tirades on why they think white people are evil and should just stop breeding. But I will share this tweet, which, while not overtly in your face, still subtly uses race baiting for what I can only assume is a ploy for engagement. And I hate to say this as an indie author because now I am lumping myself in with a group of people, but people see, as you're about to find out, that people will judge you based on the group that you identify with. So indie authors tend to use these types of tactics to get people to look at them in their books. It's kind of a ploy for attention. It's why I actually ended up unfollowing all of them. It's just become a community of rhetoric and no real substance. So the tweet in question. I like Brandon Sanderson books, but it's disheartening to see him get tens of millions of dollars on his Kickstarters when so many amazing authors I know struggle to get $2,000 on theirs. The money is there, but it's all being funneled into a handful of already rich white guys. So, first, I'd like to point out that Sanderson is not pocketing tens of millions of dollars here. His Kickstarters are successful because what the people are paying for is quality. Otherwise, he wouldn't be having that many successful Kickstarter campaigns, now would he? Second of all, let's point out the dog whistle in this post, rich white guys. Because we all know from TikTok that every white guy is rich. No, we're not all struggling or stressing about making ends meet or paying rent, or dealing with parents who are in debt and have been making terrible financial decisions since our childhood. Now we're just rolling around in our generational wealth like the privileged pale pigs we are. I'm not going to post the picture of the Twitter handle of this person because overall I don't think she is intentionally being malicious in this post. But I will point out the hypocrisy because this was a post made by a white woman. White women who I might add are taking up all the oxygen right now in the publishing industry. How many times do you hear Sanderson's books mentioned compared to, I don't know, Sarah J. Maas or Colleen Hoover? They don't do Kickstarters because the publishers they have throw money at them to create different special edition books that they can sell at different retailers. We really know nothing more, or at least I don't, of these women authors other than the books they write, unlike Sanderson. So because he's rich and white and a man, it's okay to dogpile on probably one of the least controversial authors out there right now because, of course, he's a rich white guy and whatever powers that be deem this an okay demographic to shit all over. Because all white men are just so terrible. First of all, I'd just like to apologize for whatever offensive blinding glare my sour cream complexion is giving off right now. I try to keep more natural colored lighting, but like the glaciers of Antarctica, I just end up reflecting all of it back up into space anyways, leaving my surroundings cold and lifeless. So let's discuss the other issue of this post, how this author knows other amazing authors that struggle to get $2,000 on their Kickstarters. I have a question in regards to the statement. Do people just randomly give would-be authors lots of money to back a book from a writer who hasn't proven themselves capable of writing said book? Okay, hold on, let me rephrase that. Do people just randomly give unknown creators lots of money to back a book from a writer who hasn't proven themselves capable of writing said book? Yeah, I think I crossed all my T's on that question. So, newsflash, unless you've done some major audience building and have proven yourself capable of producing a product that people will actually enjoy reading and buying, you can't just expect to fart out a Kickstarter and expect money to just start rolling in. Think of your writing career like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you do absolutely fucking nothing but try to solicit money from strangers, you're just going to get ignored. So while yes, it is unfortunate that some good authors out there will be overlooked for more established and wealthier authors, let's not forget that Sanderson has been at this for decades. He has seen the rejections pile up in his early career. Hell, even Stephen King used to nail all of his rejections to the wall with a fucking spike, okay? These people didn't just randomly come out of the blue asking for money and boom, they just become famous because they're white guys. They just had nothing marketable for years until they eventually did. That's just how it goes. So to be successful, you need to have something good. You need to have connections. You need to have a bit of luck. You can't just put up a Kickstarter and hope for the best. So enough harping on this Twitter user, let's move on to someone a little more insufferable. This wonderful drafter joins in by adding her own 2 cents, which, let's face it, isn't even worth that much. She wants to let everyone know how Sanderson is a part of a historically racist, homophobic, transphobic Mormon church. So let's see, we've made sure to put in at least 1 ist and 2 phobics. It's the perfect virtue signal for that juicy, juicy engagement. He must give 10% of his millions to tithe to them. Keep in mind, the guy has about $6 million in net worth, which doesn't necessarily mean he has all that money in the bank. So here's a question. How many authors do you think are out there, especially in Europe and North America, that are Christian and probably go to church on the regular? I'd also like to point out that according to a 2020 Pew Research poll, 78% of Black American adults have a religious affiliation compared to 72% of white American adults. And 75% of those Black American adults identify as Christian. So according to this article of the HRC, which is the Human Rights Campaign, the church has traditionally informed, influenced, and guided the day-to-day lives of many African Americans. Yet some in those churches have been unwelcoming to people with a different sexual orientation or gender identity. The Black church, the oldest institution and pillar of the Black community, has historically dictated the community's stance on homosexuality. Either you don't talk about it or you condemn it, says the journalist and blogger Lynn D. Johnson. So now with that out of the way, are we going to start calling the entire Black community homophobic and transphobic because the majority of the community is involved in ties to these churches regularly, especially in the South? I've spent the majority of my life in the South, and there's not one gay Black man I've known who hasn't dealt with extreme homophobia coming from mostly their own communities. Do we have the balls to call that out? Because apparently the gay Black men that do get a lot of pushback for that. So what about all the gays and lesbians and trans and bisexuals and pluses out there who are Christian and go to church on the regular? Are we going to lump them in with the Westboro Baptist Church now because they give 10% of their earnings to historically ist or phobic establishments? Are we starting to see the double standard and downright stupidity of this person? To vilify this man because he is a part of a religion that is known to be all kinds of phobic is to say that anyone who associates with any form of Christianity is also worthy of condemnation. Keep in mind that nowhere does she say Brandon Sanderson is racist, homophobic, and transphobic because she knows it's a fucking lie. She decides to make it seem like he's those things based on the religion he's affiliated with. So let's get on to what Brandon Sanderson believed 16 years ago and how his views on the LGBT plus community has evolved over the years, shall we? So this was something that was said by Brandon Sanderson over a decade ago. No, I don't believe that homosexuality can, in many cases at least, be treated and cured. I do believe, however, that impulses of attraction between people of the same gender are something that can and should be resisted, in the same way that my impulses of attraction toward women who are not my wife can and should be resisted. You probably believe differently, and I'm okay with that. So I'd like to say that this opinion is not exclusive to the Mormon Church. As someone who has grown up in the Southern Baptist hellscape, I can very much state that a lot of Christians share this view. However, I'd also say that if you're married, it's a lot easier to resist impulses of attraction than those of us who are just destined to die alone, I guess. However, does Sanderson still hold on to these views? No, because believe it or not, people's opinions and beliefs change as they live more, as they get to know more people outside of their circles, as they gain wisdom and experience through just living experience, just life. So a lot of people will stay in their circles of ignorance, never giving anyone else with another view the time of day. And as you can tell from some of these tweets, small-minded generalizations don't just occur in small conservative southern towns. So what is Sanderson's take today? Well, let me read you one of his Reddit posts. And yes, this is Sanderson. So someone had asked him a question in regards to that quote that he made quite a while ago. And he responded, "Thank you for a bold but not insulting phrasing of that question. So the church's general stance on the LGBTQ people is not where I, as a liberal member of the church, would like it to be. That said, I have faith in the church. I have had spiritual experiences confirming to me that this is where God wants me and that God is real." There is a passage in the Book of Mormon where someone is asked a question that they cannot answer. Their response is just to say, "I don't know the meaning of all things, but I know God loves his children." This is my answer in some cases to some of the difficult questions we get asked. That is not to say we shouldn't change or listen. If you look through my own history with LGBTQ people, I needed some education as many did. I still do, honestly. It is a process where we learn from listening and we get better and hopefully become better people, both as a culture and as individuals. If I want an institution or person to change, I personally believe that to ostracize them is not the right move in most cases. This is different from how most people see it, and these people may be right and I may be wrong. Time will tell. You're not wrong, Sanderson, by the way. Still, my belief is that by being a more liberal member of the church and remaining with the church and remaining at BYU, I have a better chance of positive change. If everyone who is a little more left than the Institute leaves it, that will not help the institution or the people who go there. For example, if people go to my class, know that I am doing my best to be an ally, then perhaps they will feel safer and the whole thing will work out better. So with that read aloud, I'll let you come to your own conclusions on whether or not to hold a grudge against Sanderson. To be honest, even if he held the same opinions to this day, I'm not going to go out of my way to vilify him. Religion's hold on people's minds is powerful, and as someone who broke free of it, I know how hard it is to see beyond the event horizon of faith that was force-fed to you for most of your life. Being a part of both worlds has allowed me understanding of how these people think. And if you've ever really had a rational conversation with anyone who is very religious, you'll find that more times than not, they're just misguided and not the evil villains you think they are in your head. So let's wrap this up with another tweet from a very special activist, shall we? Apparently, he's also an Islamophobe. Here's an article about him being honored by an Israeli Khan. Oh wait, this was in 2019. Let me see if I can find anywhere in the article that quotes Sanderson being an Islamophobe. Here we go. This is about as close as I came. "I did get some emails from people asking me to reconsider coming," he explained. "My general inclination is I don't generally boycott no matter what. I don't think it's an effective way to cause social change. I think that there are other and better ways, so I didn't agree with the requests." Oh, how irredeemably evil he must be. I love how these people can just drag anyone using the most hyperbolic language while taking everything out of context and then be patted on the back for it. Phew, you sure saved me from buying any of his books because I didn't read the article and instead decided to believe some random idiot on social media. These trash heaps of human existence will go out of their way to dig up dirt no matter how insignificant. Take it out of context so they can get clout for causing a pointless uproar that everyone eventually disregards after about a week or two. These are people who have nothing positive, creative, or useful to add to society, so they instead focus all of their effort on divisive politics and inflammatory rhetoric to get as many likes as possible, because that's something to aim for in life. I want to make it clear that I am not standing for Brandon Sanderson. As I've said, his books are kind of meh to me, but I'm not going to sit here and let someone shit all over somebody because they don't like his demographic or his religion or his sex or his sexual orientation. And you know what's even more disturbing? These people don't even realize that they themselves are bigots because you can't discriminate against white men, apparently. The logic these people use is absolutely mind-blowing. All you have to do is just scroll through TikTok. I swear, it is some of the most unhinged, most just ignorant shit I've ever listened to in my entire life. So anyways, this ended up being more of a rant than I intended, but I'm kind of sick of stuff like this. It makes indie authors come across as jealous and pandery in hopes that they can somehow get noticed. How about you start building an audience based on your own merit instead of feeling the need to put others down? Even if you feel like you're punching up, you're not. You just look like a fool, an envious, bitter fool. So that's it for today. If you liked this video, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, click the links, yada yada. Until next time.